Yay, awesome. Well, I'm
Awesome.
so excited to welcome you, Nakia Fleming. We are talking today all about your life coaching business, and I would love to hear so much about you. This is, we call it the Millionaire Mom Method, where I like to encourage everyone to inspire others, teach others, and grow together, right? That is my goal. We all rise together. So, I'm so excited to have you. Tell us about, I'd love to hear from you, kind of your, I always say origin story, right? So tell us maybe that moment you felt like you had a transformation, or what was kind of the impetus to your wanting to go off on your own and start this business?
Thanks for having me first, Christina. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
It's like when we get together, it's kind of like chatting with old friends.
I know. It's so great.
So, my journey to life coaching started probably about 10 years ago when I was going through my own sense of self-discovery. I've been a mom for 30 some years. I've been a wife. I have children. I have other children as well. And I have grandchildren. And I went through this period of self-discovery, not really knowing what I wanted to do. And so I've been a nurse for the last 20 years, and I was just thinking, what can I do away from the bedside?
Mm,
And so I went through this period of self discovery. And then over time, as I'm going through this and trying to find my own way, I thought I would love to share this with people that I know. And so I
yeah.
kind of started sharing on social media just naturally, like with my friends, what I was reading, what I was learning. And then again, we moved across the country, and I thought, what can I do again away from the bedside? And so this was just kind of a natural transition. I was really helping other women through their life transitions. I was going through my own space of transitioning life, and that's just kind of how we got started.
I love it. And that's so true because I think as women, right, we so get lost kind of in ourselves, and especially during times of change, right? When we're
Yes.
transitioning or new careers or kids are, our time frame changes, kids have different schedules. It's always hard, I think, to find ourselves, right? Or
Mhm.
to remember ourselves.
It is. And when you're going through a season of change, sometimes the people around you are going through that season, and sometimes they aren't. And
Yeah.
it can be very lonely and very isolating. And there's a lot of stuff as women we've been kind of conditioned to not talk about.
So
Um, and so over time, now we're starting to talk about some of our troubles. We're kind of talking about, I don't love this career anymore, or now what do I do once my kids are gone, or even menopause and perimenopause.
of course.
I tell people all the time, I feel bamboozled. I wanted
Yeah,
to be an adult woman for so long, but there's so
we
much
are.
that was left out. And
I'm
I
here to prove
really, yes, and I really hate the idea of people kind of going through their transitions alone. There are
that.
some seasons that you are going to do things alone, right? Like you're going to kind of self isolate, and that's a place where you're supposed to be. But there
Yeah.
are seasons where you want community, you want support, you want resources. Sometimes you just want to know that you're not the only one
Yeah.
that's having that struggle. So,
So true. Yeah, I love that because you're right. And no matter what phase, when the kids are younger, when the kids grow, I feel like as moms, we get so kind of deep in the weeds, right, of momming that we forget that there are other women that are probably going through your same trials and tribulations, right? Or that
yes,
maybe someone has learned and could share some advice with you. And I think that's so true, especially about momming, right? I feel like it's usually, or I think maybe perhaps it's become more okay, but I feel like it hasn't been accepted, widely accepted, that it's hard and that sometimes, right? I love my kids. I don't like them every day.
exactly.
Right? And I know other
Yes.
moms feel the same way. I love them and it's so hard. Like, I always say like I'm so excited for them to go to school, but then the minute they go to school, I'm like, oh, I kind of miss them, right?
Yes. When are they coming home? What am I going to do with
Right.
myself? You
And then
do.
the second they come home, I'm like, okay, you can go back.
Yes. Like, oh, it's too loud. But then the
Right.
silence is deafening. When they go to school, you're like, I need to
Right.
turn something on. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So true. Well, I would love to hear what you feel like. So, which transformations or kind of which transitional times do you feel like are the most important or that you feel like you could really help people with?
Primarily right now, I really feel like I can help with the empty nesting phase. I
Mhm.
also feel like I can help with the new self-discovery. Even if you're not empty nesting, if you've had this awakening and you wake up one day and you're like, I don't even know what I like. Like I
Mm,
don't even know what I want to do next. What does bring me joy? I've been in the trenches of raising children or building a career or taking care of a sick loved one. And so you get very lost. I feel like the self-discovery portion of it is where my strong suit is,
mhm.
and keeping the harmony of that. So you may be in the trenches of still taking care of young adults and still trying to figure out what am I going to do once they're gone, or you still may be in the transition of taking care of sick relatives and still need some space to build joy because this season won't last forever. Your
Mm,
relative will get well, or they age, or they may transition. And
yeah.
so in that space of a seasonal change, I do feel like that's more of my strong suit. It's definitely a suit that I have walked through. It's a
Mhm.
suit that I feel like I've had the most experience with. I've researched it the most, and it's where I'm more educated.
I love it. Awesome. And do you feel like there are times when your kids, or how do you kind of incorporate your kids? I think that's always the challenge with moms, right? Whatever stage you're at, how am I going to start this business? Or, how am I going to start this new phase and still, whatever, be with my kids or incorporate them? Do you feel like you've been able to kind of incorporate them, kind of use them as your, inspiration, or, however, what do you feel like you have incorporated your children?
Feel like I've incorporated my children by incorporating what I call like my six roots to keep
Mm,
my life kind of whole. And it's the basis of my coaching program to keep my life whole and kind of work in harmony. Balance doesn't always work because
yeah,
something's always going to be lopsided. But
I
I
love it.
have these six areas that I really try to focus on, which is faith and family, finances, fitness, my future, and friendships. And in this, I love a block schedule. I love
Mm,
goal setting. And so for each of these six areas, I set a goal to reach every month. I have a larger goal that I start at the beginning of the year, but I break it down into kind of bite sized pieces every month. And then throughout the month, I throw them onto my schedule every week. There are
I love
some weeks where I never really talk about my friendships, or I don't have to worry about that. There are weeks where I tap into fitness. And so to be able to keep all of these spaces together, I just kind of make sure that I leave space for all of them. I leave space for my family. I leave space for my business. I leave space for the future me. I leave space to be able to build friendships. There's nothing worse than coming up out of the weeds of a situation and your season has changed and everybody else is gone.
it.
Change, relationships change. There are people that are in your life for a season, but
Yeah,
there's nothing worse than kind of letting some very important relationships kind of fall to the wayside because you were in the middle of your own season of whether it was good or bad. You're
yeah.
still in your own season. And so, what I also would hate is to miss somebody else's important need for me and not be able to be there for somebody else. So,
Yeah, of course. And I love that. That really speaks to the point of, right, wanting to help people change or helping people through this is so that we kind of break the cycle of it's not okay to talk about these things or whatever. So I would imagine you're kind of thinking as you're teaching other women this, you're also probably helping your children figure out as they grow up so that they don't have to wake up one day as they're going through a transition and be like, "Oh my God, I left, I didn't work on
yes.
my friendships. I didn't work on my, finances
Mhm.
or whatever that is." So I think that's really smart that you're kind of, I'm sure, teaching them along the way as well.
Yes, we do talk a lot about. I have one son who has ADHD, and he really lives and dies by a list and timers. And
Mm,
so we talk often, even the one that just went to college, well, it's his second year, but having to be able to have a very well rounded life, like you have to be able to have a job, have a
Mhm.
relationship, have a friendship, have some time for yourself, and manage your home.
Yeah.
So even when he's in high school and he wanted to do all of these things, you need to make space for all of these things. And so just kind of teaching them to um, carve out a little path for each thing. And you can't, there may be a week where it's finals week and you're not hanging out with any friends and you're barely
Love
cleaning your
that.
apartment.
Yeah.
However, there may be a week where work is slow and you do have time for other things.
Yeah.
Or if there's a time where you're traveling quite a bit, how are you still going to stay in touch with your family and friends back home? So, one
Yeah.
of my sons is a journalist. And so, what if you travel
Yeah.
for your job, you still want to be able to keep touch with your home base. What does that look like? So even him and his cousins and my son, because he's away at school, they have monthly cousin group chat or Zoom
Oh,
calls
no
so
way.
that they can kind of touch base and talk to each other about high school and whatever else is going. And so we've tried to instill that in them
That's
early so
so
that it
cool.
can be more balanced because if you have a child who's very driven, they can be focused on school and nothing else. Or if you have a child who's very just kind of like fly by the seat of their pants, then they need that structure. So,
Yeah.
and
Oh, I
structure
love
works
that.
for both sides.
Yeah. And so you're really helping like future, right, generations and
Mhm.
hopefully they'll, their kids it'll pass on. And so that hopefully they'll have the tools, right? That's the goal.
Yes.
That we can all have the tools to be more well-rounded because that's so true that, some people have focused so much on career and then they wake up and don't have relationships or friends or whatever,
Right.
right? Or their house or and then the other way too, if they've focused only on, not a career, if they've only done house things and family things, then all of a sudden they're like, I want something of my own. So
Hmm.
all of those things can be, I'm sure, really helpful for what you offer.
Yes, I think so. I do. I work with a lot of nurses who, because I'm still a nurse,
Yeah.
and I work with a lot of nurses who are like, I want to do this when I retire.
Oh, how do I
But
get
what are
there?
you doing, or anything like, but what are you doing now? Like, I want to travel when I retire, but you're
Are you
not
planning?
retiring for 10 or 15 years. Like, you're not going
Yeah.
to travel until then. And so,
Oh,
even just kind of teaching and sharing with my coworkers how to just kind of incorporate it. Like, no, maybe you're not taking a 2 week European trip, but if
sure.
there's some place in Connecticut you'd like to visit, we make our own schedules. Let's build that into your schedule so you have time for this road trip. If you don't like to fly, or maybe you need to work on your finances, that's going to help you to be able to meet this instead of waiting till the very end. Let's plan ahead also.
Oh, I love that. That's a great idea because really, I think that's the point, right? I think our generation, our parents' generation definitely were taught like, oh, work, 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 and then you can have
Mhm.
fun when you retire, right? Or you can rest when you retire.
Yes.
And that's no way to live, right?
No, it isn't.
And then your body fails you, right? Or you don't have the energy or whatever, right? Like
Yes.
why not, yeah, be more well-rounded or incorporate the things that you love every day. That would bring more joy,
Hmm.
I think.
Yes.
I love
Yep,
that.
and even like the movement piece. If I have I work with some nurses who are barely getting around the unit. How are you gonna
Yeah.
travel in Greece? How are you going to go to the Eiffel Tower? Like, let's start working on those joints now. Like, let's change some of our diets, and it's all incorporated. And it's not just. And I don't focus on diet
Definitely.
and
Yeah.
exercise, but as a holistic coach, I
Yeah.
definitely want to make sure that all of the parts of your life are being nourished. And
Yeah.
so if you want to move better, let's start now. Like,
Yeah.
we've done walk challenges at work. It
So,
is sometimes just even being curious about what's out there or alternatives because it may not look like you spending an hour in the gym for your health to be great. It may be just something as simple as swapping out vegetables for a month and then that turning into adding more water. I worked with a nurse who loved a Dr. Pepper and she still does.
oh,
However, we did a water challenge and now she drinks water with her Dr. Pepper and her kidneys love her. So
ah, amazing. And I will say Dr. Pepper is so, so good.
I know there's nothing better than a crisp Dr. Pepper.
I know. So my husband and I call it the nectar of the gods, right? It is like delicious. But yeah, not great for
Yes.
our kidneys or our bodies.
Yes, but I mean, then you have some harmony and some balance. I do say balance when it's
Mm.
talking about food and drinks and exercise. I mean, you do have some balance because I can have my Dr. Pepper and I can move things along with some good hydration.
Yeah,
So,
I love that. Yeah, because it's really about, in balance. I always feel like the word balance is hard because that makes it feel like
mhm,
things are equal, right? And I think
right.
equal is impossible, and we're never going to achieve it. So I really talk about like waves, like your
Yes.
energy, your health, whatever you're focusing on. So I really love how you divided things into these different pillars that you can,
Yes.
and it's okay to focus on. You're not gonna balance all six pillars at one time. Clearly,
Absolutely not. Right. So
nobody
if your
can.
prayer life is strong or your spiritual life is strong, so then whatever you're doing over there, whatever you chose to do to make that area strong, can you practice some of those habits? Can you bring some of that over to maybe your finances? Or if your finances are great and that's stable, then you don't really need to focus on that. You just need to check in with that, right? So, like if you've got a really great debt payoff system, you've got really great savings and spending habits, that's not something that you need to hone in on. It's just something that you need to check on. And then while that's kind of running smoothly over there, what's it look like for your family structure? What traditions are you building? Are you dating the members of your family? What's important to you in what your family structure looks like? Because it looks different for everybody, it's very individual. And so, how are you making that work for you? And if that is strong, then while that's running kind of seamlessly, let's focus on something that may be on fire, maybe your future, or you're building your business and your head down in that. But in your business plan, you can touch on all your other areas to just kind of make things kind of ebb and flow. And I believe in seasons. I think there is a season for everything. There's a season where you have littles and that is your focus. But
Yeah,
even if that is your focus, that doesn't mean that you have to completely be neglected.
of
We are
course.
going to talk about how you can have a good sleep and workout routine with littles.
Yeah.
We are going to talk about what friendships look like with littles, all of that. And so it's definitely, my coaching system is definitely personalized to whoever I'm coaching at the moment, what their values are, and how it can work for them, because what works for me may not work for them.
Oh yeah, I love that. Everybody's so different, right? And that's
Mhm.
why it's so important to really look at it, as a unique and kind of customized approach because everyone has a different lifestyle
Yes.
and different focus. Where is the best place for everyone to get a hold of you?
You can find me on Instagram under the Wildflower Coach. You can find me my my business page is Wildflower Lifestyle Coaching. And attached to that, I do have a private Facebook group that's called Becoming Me, a soulful space for growth and grace. And I'm also the Wildflower Coach on TikTok.
Love it. Awesome. I will add all those kind of links below so anyone
Thank you.
can click on that, of course. And you touched on something that I loved hearing from you about dating the people in your life, right?
Yes.
Tell me about if, that one, I love that tip as well as other tips that you have really discovered during this, season
Mhm.
of your life that you share with your coaching clients. But definitely tell us about dating.
So dating, so I think it started with a marriage retreat with my husband. So for him and I to be able to go on dates. But I have four children who are in different age groups. I have the adult children and then I have two teens. And my younger two are 18 months apart. And so a lot of times they were together. And it's really nice to get individual time with them. And I didn't notice how important it was until one of them went to school and the other one was still at home. And then when they both went to school, and then my daughter and I could just have some time together. So over time, it just became, I didn't know that it was a need, that I needed to kind of seek them out individually until they just kind of happened to be alone with me. And
Yeah.
so now it's very purposeful to take them away and do something with them separately. They're their own individuals. I have one son who will give me the long version of every story. And then I have one
Love it.
son who gives me very condensed version. However, if he's not interrupted by his siblings, he will give me the long version.
Oh,
And
interesting.
yeah, so he's very much like, if they're talking, I'm not. But if I can talk, I will tell you the whole long story. And it really allowed me to kind of see them as individuals and to spend time with them that they don't have to
Oh,
compete for, and then they feel special, and then I feel special. And it doesn't have to be anything major. Like my daughter, for instance, she has her own home. And so it's really kind of nice that I get to go and have dinner at her home and she
oh,
invites me.
oh,
Or food is one of my love languages.
yeah.
So to let them pick a restaurant, or
So
I will take an
fun.
opportunity if they need something for a project. It'll just be the two of us going, and we'll turn it into just kind of like one of my sons and I, we love to like look at all the snacks. And
Mm,
so that's kind of our date. It doesn't need to be
giant.
ceremonial in the no,
Yeah.
it doesn't need to be giant.
Official.
It doesn't need to be
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
One of our favorite things to do is explore a new park. And
Oh,
it's a family thing that usually we end up doing as a family, but just even grabbing Subway or bringing a snack and then just checking out a new park, it's trickled down to the grandkids. So if
oh,
we're driving past a park they've never been to, they're like, "Oh, can we try that park next?" And
oh,
so, and that was born out of necessity for not having a lot of money, having littles that I needed to get the
energy
energy
out.
out of, and it's turned into a family thing. So,
Oh, that's so amazing. I love that because I think I told you, right? I have twins. I have boy-girl twins. And
yes.
so we learned pretty early on that it was, important for them to get their own time. But I don't think we made it, anything official. And it's still hard, but I
Mhm.
can really tell that they crave, right, that one-on-one
Yes,
time with each
very
parent.
much.
So I think that's something that I'm going to take away from, just hanging out with you, that I think it's really important that we, make time for that, because and make it,
Yes.
purposeful, like you said, even if it is just a shopping trip, or,
Mhm.
and I love that time. I think the funniest times have been in the car driving, right? They'll say something
Yes.
hilarious and it's just funny. So I love that.
That's one of the best ways that I found to get teens to talk to you if they're stuck in the car with you.
Oh, love it.
They
Yes.
can't like slip off to their room and they can't be
Yes.
distracted and you can't be distracted. You need me to
Mhm.
drive you wherever we're going, so you might as well. And then a lot of times they just will start talking and become very long-winded, especially if you make it a safe space or just even funny.
Yeah.
We always have a battle over who gets to control the music. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm very lucky that my boys have really great musical taste, much better than me. But I'm lucky. The young granddaughters, though, I can do without their music, but I was stuck with their music for an hour last week. So,
You worked it out, right?
yes,
I love that. Um, yeah, I think you're right. I think that is really important. And I'm definitely going to pick your brain about some of the harder topics now that my teens are
yes,
getting older. So
yes, for
sometime I'm
sure.
going to pick your brain about that. Because I feel like I always try to bring up, I'm awkward, right? They're awkward, right? And it's hard. So anyway, I need some advice on that. I'll have to pick your brain.
For sure.
So, the last little piece of this, I feel like, what do you want to inspire other women to do to grow? Like, I always love talking about money, right? Do you feel like you
Mhm.
have learned anything about money that you would want to share? And I love in your group, you've started asking some really hard questions. I love, like, what would you teach someone, right? I think
Oh,
yours is great.
yes.
What would you teach another woman, or what would you want to pass on to your younger self?
Um, to my younger self, I feel like I've had so many conversations with my younger self.
Yeah.
Stay curious. I
Oh,
do feel like
good one.
stay open and stay curious because there's so much
Yeah.
to learn. There's so much
Oh,
to learn from other
never ending.
people.
Yeah.
Yes, I do love connecting with people who are not in my normal social group or my normal
Mm.
demographic because I've
Yeah.
learned so much from other people, other
So true.
cultures. I grew up in a small town in Iowa. And so for me, just even as a Black woman, that was a different space for me. But I learned a
Sure.
lot of things from the women that I grew up with that helped to kind of shape my life
Yeah.
in learning from other cultures. So that was just, but I've
Amazing.
always been curious. And I think that that's led me to be able to take great adventures, try delicious
Mm.
food, meet people that I would have never met if I was afraid, and also do it scared. because
Yeah,
I do a lot of things like unknown. Like I'm probably the only one who's walking this the first time, and I'm like, okay, here we go.
doing it.
Like, yes,
I love it. Yes, that's such good advice. Yeah, I think that's so true. So many things, right, are out of our comfort zone. And I think
yes,
there's lots of times where, of course, it would be easier to just stay comfortable.
yes,
But it's good and it's such growth, right? I feel like we should
it
always be
is.
growing. It's such growth for your perspective. And then you're kind of proud of yourself, like, wow, I did that, right? It's
Yes,
really,
I'm pretty proud that I didn't let people talk me out of some of my wild dreams. Like
yeah,
some of my ideas, like other people are like, oh, I wouldn't do that. That
yeah,
sounds, or I wouldn't move there, or I could
would
never
never.
travel there. And I think my defiant nature was like, oh,
Okay,
now I
I'm
should
gonna do
try
it.
it. Yeah. Like what, like, why wouldn't I? Yeah.
Yes, I love that. That's awesome. And how about for other women? What's one message that you feel like you really want all of your clients to take away, or just everyone listening to you? What would you want people to take away, or just women in general?
That this journey isn't really meant to be done alone. We're
Mm,
meant to be in community. We're
yeah,
meant to be able to share some of our trials and tribulations and joys with
love
other people who are walking along before and behind us, I think.
so
I mean,
true.
again, there are some seasons that, yes, you're a little quieter and you do keep things close to the cuff, but we aren't meant to do this all by yourself, and there's somebody who can support you someplace, and I'm happy to be one of those people.
Yes. Oh, I love that so much. That is so true. Because I definitely think, right, there are times when we're like, oh my God, no one's going through this, right? No
Yes.
one has ever done this like me. No one understands, blah, blah, blah.
Hmm.
That's just not true, right? There are so many
Right.
people in the world. And now with the internet and social media, I feel like it's a great connector, such a great place to, right, connect people from all
It
different
is.
areas. And what a great, person to learn from, that you've been through some of these experiences and you can share things that you've learned and hopefully make us all well-rounded for it.
Yes. Thank you.
Of course. Awesome. Anything else that you want to tell us about you or your business?
Nope. I look forward to connecting with anyone, even if you don't need a coaching. If you don't
Yeah.
need a coach, I love a coffee chat. Christina has one, a
Oh,
great one on Fridays,
yes.
and I'm always open for a coffee chat. There's a calendar link on my website and in my bio site on my socials.
Okay.
So I love to chat with people. So
Yay, me too. Love it. Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks so much, Nakia. I appreciate you coming on today, and I look forward to watching you grow and seeing other women learn so much from you.
thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Awesome. All right. Have a good one. We'll talk to you later.
All right, you too. Bye bye.
Bye.